I'm Kyle Feingold. I'm co-founder and chief inspiration officer at Guiding Bright Minds. And again, welcome to the Guiding Bright Minds webinar series number 19, titled Help Your Neurodiverse Child and Family Navigate the Holiday Break with Less Stress. And again, we have Bridget, Meg, and Alice from Team Wonder here joining us, and super excited for the knowledge they're about to share with us, and the tips and tricks, and to really help all of us get through that holiday season with connection and really lots of joy, and reduce that stress as we go through the holiday season. So before I hand it over and formally introduce Bridget, Meg, and Alice and Team Wonder, I want to give you just a little bit of information about Guiding Bright Minds. So Guiding Bright Minds, we launched about a year ago, and we're on a mission to become the one place where parents of diverse and neurodiverse learners go to get everything they need on their journey, including research on the different learning disabilities and neurodiversities, as well as connection and communication with parents that are experiencing a similar journey as yourself. In addition, webinars like this, articles, events, all around kids that learn and think differently. And then we also have a screened and vetted network of professionals that can help guide you through your journey in raising your neurodiverse child. Within that professional network, we have psychologists, occupational therapists, ABA certified clinicians, support groups, schools, all here to help guide you on the next steps of your journey in raising your amazing kids. So with that being said, for myself, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this, and why my wife and I decided to launch this company a year ago, is, for me, it starts when I was school age. I grew up with dyslexia that was diagnosed in the 5th grade, and undiagnosed ADHD. And needless to say, back when I was a little less mature and had hair and growing up, there was a lot less knowledge about how to help somebody like me and how to reach somebody like me. So I had a very difficult time in elementary school, and teachers had a difficult time connecting with me. And that affected me socially, emotionally, and academically. And as I grew up, my parents worked so hard back in the days before the internet, right, to find the right resources and support that I needed to be my best self as an adult. And that journey for them was, I remember my mom going through it. It was always a struggle to find the right thing, to support me in the right way, to connect with teachers and communicate in a way that really made sense to them. So one of the things that about 20 years ago, I started a company called Results Learning. And Results Learning is all about helping diverse minds find tools and support for them to be successful in school and in life. And through that journey, I've seen so many parents struggle with finding the right resources. And, the stories I hear about how hard and difficult it was for people to find places like Results Learning and Wonder and so many others throughout the years really kind of told me there needs to be one place where parents can go to get everything they need. And for my wife, her journey really started when we had our amazing, now 8-year-old neurodiverse son. He is about the most intelligent, amazing person on the planet. Of course, I think that I'm his dad, but I believe that. And, in raising him, my wife, even having somebody like myself in the house who grew up with some of these struggles, it was still difficult for the two of us to navigate and find the right community and connections and professionals for our son. Again, even though we had different expertise and specific expertise in the house. So my wife, kind of with me, we both thought there has to be an easier way to do this. And we created Guiding Bright Minds with that in mind, again, to be the one place where parents go for trusted information, to find professionals and connection and community along their journey in raising their amazing neurodiverse and diverse learners. So with that being said, we want you to check out and explore Guiding Bright Minds, become a part of our community. There's no cost to join. And we want to be there to support you and nurture you and your children along the journey. So as we get started with our webinar today, I am going to put our information in the chat. Following the webinar today, we're going to send out some of that information along with a link to the recording today and any resources that Team Wonder shares today. So that'll be headed to you following this presentation or this webinar. And if there's anybody out there that you know that can use this, either this specific webinar, or they need a place where they can have a community to support them in their journey, please share this far and wide. We started here, right here in Colorado, and our goal is to grow and be really the one place where parents go, not only in Colorado, but throughout the nation. So with that being said, I'm excited to start our webinar and introduce you to our guest today. So again, welcome to the Guiding Bright Minds webinar series, number 19, how to help your neurodiverse child and family navigate the holiday break with less stress. And we're here with Bridget, Meg, and Alice from Team Wonder today. So I want to give you a little background on each one of our panelists today. So Bridget heads up the marketing and outreach efforts for Wonder by building relationships with therapists, doctors, schools, and more within our local Denver Boulder community. Clinical training combined with years of experience in marketing and admissions means Bridget understands the challenges of finding the right therapeutic care for parents, youth, and families. Bridget loves helping bridge the gap between parents looking for the right support and professionals that are engaged and adept helpers. And then we have Meg. Meg Sheldon is a clinical team lead in Atlanta. As a team lead, she supports her therapists and coaches in their work by providing supervision and consultation. However, she also works directly with clients as a parent coach. Her 15+ years of experience providing clinical care to families and parents has honed an expertise of approaching each client's family with an open mind and a readiness to apply a variety of therapeutic approaches to suit that family's needs. Working in a number of mental health settings, both professionally in the US and England, and personally as a parent, provides a perspective that helps parents and kids connect and heal. And then we have Alex with us as well. And Alex is the clinical team lead in San Francisco and heads up clinical team throughout the Bay Area, and also provides support for parents as a parent coach. Alex is a Bay Area native, has worked in residential, community mental health, detention, and private agencies providing therapy to teens, parents, and families. She brings a youthful, warm energy that's rooted in sound clinical expertise and a love for seeing families heal and evolve. And with that, I'm delighted to welcome all three of you. And Bridget, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Unmute. Okay. Well, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. We're really excited to be here today, and we definitely appreciate the opportunity to talk through the transitioning into Thanksgiving, winter break, and beyond. We know that transition from school into these breaks can bring with it a lot of anxiety or maybe excitement or some combination of them all. And we work a lot with our families in that capacity and helping navigate this, and how do we stay in relationship with each other as we go through the ups and downs of these breaks. So before I introduce Wonder, I did ask Kyle to put together a few poll questions. And so Kyle, if you want to send those out, you'll have a few minutes to respond to them. And so while you kind of read through these, I'm going to share my screen so you can see our slides. Okay. And
looks great. Okay.
Yeah, so you can see everything. Okay, thanks, Kyle. All right, so yeah, as you fill out those poll questions, we'll get results here in just a moment. But let me give you just an overview on who we are as Wonder, just so you have some context. We have been providing our type of support to parents, families, and youth. We work with kids age 11 all the way up to 28. We are therapists, we are coaches, and we started here in the Denver Boulder area, but really we have clinical teams based in a handful of cities throughout the US, so we can support families nationwide in a pretty different variety of ways. And I think the things that I just wanted to highlight that we do that is a little bit different, we are not doing traditional talk therapy because for a lot of kids, especially neurodiverse youth, it just is not always the greatest fit. It can be, but sometimes it is tough to engage for preteen, teens, young adults in that sit-down office talking manner. So we kind of come at this from a few different ways. One of the things we're really looking at, and you're going to hear us refer to family systems, we're really thinking about our kids in the context of their family, because all those relationships are impacting where kids are doing, finding success, where kids are struggling. It definitely contributes to kind of how they're seeing themselves and their capability. So we're always looking at what the struggles are for kids, but also within that family system. So we're always sort of thinking in that mindset. And relationship focused, which sounds a little bit vague, but really what we're coming into contact with for a lot of our kids, whether our kids have neurodiversity struggles or not, is in relationships. So where things are kind of getting more difficult is maybe in relationship with peers or with parents or siblings or maybe employers. It could be showing up in a lot of different ways, and that can contribute to increased impact on anxiety, depression, tech use, checking out, etc. So we're really, really focusing in our work on how our kids, and in the case of today's discussion, parents relating. How are we able to connect, and what are sometimes those struggles to being able to do that? The other piece is activity-based. And so our sessions with our kids are really rooted in movement. And that could be anything. That could be everything from like doing art or music or cooking or going on a walk. The activity can take a lot of different shapes. But really what it does is it feels less like therapy. So it sort of feels more like the relationship between therapists and kids has sort of maybe a coachy friend kind of I'm here with you feel. But there is all of our clinical team, our master's level therapists that have worked with kids in a lot of different settings. So they have a really good background to really attune to kids in this movement-based way. And what we find is kids engage with the work in a lot more authentic way. We also get the benefit of seeing them in their everyday life. And when things show up, when they're out doing an activity and maybe a peer shows up, then we can work with them in that moment. And so it's really, kids are able to more in the moment work through stuff. So it has a different sort of feel. And we're also mobile, so that sort of comes through in the activity base. So we'll start oftentimes with kids and parents in your home and kind of get to know you there, start building a relationship, and then we'll venture out and do activities. And so we're working with kids individually, working with parents individually, and we can work with everyone in the whole family. So a lot of flexibility to really suit the needs of what makes sense. And we're also super collaborative with other professionals because we have to be, whether that's a psychiatrist or a school or whatever the case may be. So common struggles for our kids, ADHD, autism, executive functioning, technology, youth misuse, social anxiety, school refusal, conflict in the family, increased risk-taking. These are all things that are showing up in some way, shape, or form at different degrees. And so we always start kind of just with a conversation and get a sense of where parents are at and the support they're needing, and then we work from there. So that gives you a little bit of understanding. You'll hear us talk about this family systems and relationship piece a lot. So I thought it was important to mention that. So Kyle, I'll check in with you on those poll results. I thought I don't know if we can see them or read them. Oh, you're on mute, I think, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yep.
The curse of mute. All right. So we had a poll question. What's your child's age? We had 60% 0 to 12, 40% 13 to 18, and nobody with 18 or over. So how does your child handle transition or change? And I love the way you worded this. So easy peasy, we actually had about 10%. Some time and space, they adapt and go for it. We had about 40%. And the same, we had a 40% for they push back and may negotiate to resist change. And then we had 10% where we change procedures, change produces tantrums, meltdowns, that are hard to contain. And then we had, what is your planning style? Now, again, love the way you phrase this, Olympic level planner. One of these days, I will become that. Not yet, but we had about 30%. Say they're Olympic level. Procrastination is my love language. That fits me. That's 40%. And then overwhelmed, where do I start? About 30%. And then the last question was, how do you feel about the upcoming break? Excited and hopeful, we had about 60%, which is amazing. Anxious and uncertain, 30%. And we had 10% that is dreading.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for everyone. That gives us a good kind of understanding of you all and what you're bringing to today's presentation. So just a brief overview, what we're going to be talking a little bit about are some common struggles and anxieties that parents are holding in anticipation of these breaks. We're going to talk through a few considerations for how to talk to your kids about time management throughout the breaks and different ways to stay in relationship as you're doing that. We're going to talk about some ground rules and tips for fostering communication. These are things we've learned a lot in our work with parents and our families, and things that we find are pretty good, helpful rules to sort of have. And technology, it's the ongoing battle for a lot of families, and so we couldn't not address this. And so we're going to talk about some different considerations regarding tech agreements and how do we kind of think about this in the context of these breaks. And then we'll finish up. Our last slide does have a few resources, so I just want to make sure there are links on these slides. So Kyle, I'll make sure to get those to you at the end, and so we can send those out to everyone.
Wonderful. And I just want to mention, again, everybody that has attended this, I know you're going to see some valuable information. We are going to send you a copy of this, of the webinar, so you can re-review it and share it to others that may help.
Perfect. Thanks, Kyle. Okay, so from here, I'm going to pass it over to Meg. If I can get my slide to. Okay. I'm going to, hand it over to Meg to kick us off here with planning and managing expectations.
Thanks, Bridget and Kyle. Glad to be here today. So for our first bit of information, let's consider what parents expect when expecting a break. When you imagine your family on a break from the intensity of school, activities, homework, work deadlines, you probably fall into one of two schools of thought. Either you have those super relaxing fantasies in your head and you cannot wait for break to start, or you may be feeling dread of that unstructured time, the potential conflicts over screen time, and your child's expert impersonation of a sloth. But both of these fantasies, as we saw in the poll, it was 3 different options. They're completely understandable and normal. Like, for parents to have a spectrum of feelings there is completely normal. Today, we're hoping to give you some food for thought, no matter what your feelings are, where you fall in that continuum, so we can help you plan and enjoy quality connection with your child for Thanksgiving break, winter break, and beyond. So planning ahead is one of the most effective ways to achieve your goals, whether it's for your work, travel, retirement, or even, let's be real, planning weeknight meals. It's an incredibly hard thing to do if you haven't planned it ahead. This is also true for finding ways to stay connected and avoiding or reducing the amount of conflicts you have with your child when they're on school holidays. So when you think of your family as a system, you're allowed the chance to involve your child in planning the changes in your routine. Getting your child involved can have a major impact on their willingness to go with the flow. So once you've decided, or if you decide to have this conversation with your child, it's time to decide when is the best time for this conversation. If your child is going through a challenging stage where their gut reaction is to disagree with every single thing you say, you may opt to plant a seed, invite them to have this conversation, and then let them know, hey, later on, we're going to check back. I value your opinion, as opposed to trying to plow through and have that conversation. If, however, your kid is pretty used to family meetings and that's something you're great at, you should use that time to say, let's consider next week or what's going to happen next month when we're on break. Knowing your child's resistance or reluctance to engage in this conversation will help you be able to prepare in a way that doesn't make them feel confrontational. So, how to foster connection. When you're valuing your child's feelings, needs, and wishes, i.e., you're inviting them to plan with you, you're sending a message that you care about what matters most to them. I understand personally, as Kyle said in my bio blurb, that I'm a parent, and it can make you feel intimidated to ask your child what they want, what their needs are during breaks from school, because you imagine that it may create a sense of entitlement with them. You may fear that listening to them is the same thing as condoning or agreeing, putting your stamp of approval on their fantasies for break. But have trust. This first step, inquiring what they think and what they need, is the beginning of creating connection when planning. So next, you're going to need to clarify your priorities and actually look at your schedule. I'm sure you have a schedule that's a mile long, but your kid may also have a few things that are must-do on their schedules. So asking your child, once you've figured out the best time to do that, to come up with goals of what would be their most fun, best case scenario break plan. Don't judge them in this moment. For example, if your child shares that their goal is to stay up till 3 a.m. watching YouTube, sleep until noon every day, you can reflect, wow, it sounds like you're hoping to get lots of sleep, have unstructured time, and plenty of time to veg out. In your mind, you may be screaming, but that's okay. Again, right now is the ground floor of this planning and connection stage. This first moment of active listening is not intended as a teachable moment. You're listening to your child to understand their expectations. Validating that you hear these wishes does not mean you're on board with this insane sleep schedule. So your fantasy time off, let's acknowledge that. You're going to need to share with your child what you think would be a great idea for break. Now, me as a parent, mine is often pretty nuts. Sure, you think, let's let them catch up on sleep. That'll be great. But also you're fantasizing they're going to be motivated to catch up on their homework. They're studying, visiting with their grandparents, helping out with the house, and of course, lots of exercise, fresh air, and sunshine. It's okay to laugh at yourself and the disparity between your visions. This is the starting point for compromise. I know my kids, when I share how different their vision and my vision is, we have a good laugh at this. I'm not saying theirs is wrong or mine is wrong. It's funny how different our opinions are. So finding a compromise, that's your next step. You're looking for a middle ground. It can be difficult, and it's okay to be a little more relaxed during your kids' time off from school. Being aware of how far apart your goals are, it'll help you to see if you can find a space that you both might be comfortable somewhere in the middle. And Alex is going to talk a little bit more about that. So over to Alex, please.
Hey guys, so I'm going to talk a bit about tips and ground rules just for having this conversation. So as Meg said, it's so important to have a conversation with your child ahead of the break, just to make sure that you guys are both on the same page. So take time to have a conversation or many conversations with your child beforehand to make sure that you guys are all on the same page. Don't assume your child will be fine with whatever activity you have planned, even if you think it's a fun activity. So again, as Meg just mentioned, all the things that she may list may sound horrible, for your child. So we're just wanting to make sure to touch base with them again, so that we're working collaboratively and they're on the same page. It's really important to do this ahead of time so that each of you has enough time to process and make sure that your needs are being met and their needs are being met. So a day or two ahead of time is fine. But if you have the opportunity or a chance a week or even a few weeks ahead of time, it's just a good starting point, because then it allows for more time for collaboration, revision. Hey, this is actually not going to work. We know that with kids, their plans will change. And so having enough time kind of gives the opportunity to remove things, to add things, and again, to make sure that the expectations are really clear as we head into the break. We really want to make these conversations as collaborative as possible. And the more buy buy-in we have from the kids, we know that the better the outcomes will be. It's also really important to be aware of your feelings and needs as well as your child's feelings and needs. I spend a lot of time ahead of the holidays processing emotions and discussing previous breaks from school and what went well. But a lot of the times I talk with parents about what didn't go well. We all have expectations, hopes, and fears, and maybe breaks from school remind you of the time when all your child did was spend every day on the couch in their PJs on Snapchat, not doing anything, which meant that the two of you fought all the time and you weren't really able to enjoy the holiday. That can produce a lot of anxiety and tension and stress and tension as you head to the new holiday. So heading into the new break, you really want to make sure that you have a chance to flush that out. Those feelings are totally valid and normal, but we just want to process them so we don't go into that conversation or conversations with our child kind of holding on to all of that and leading with that, because that's not going to be a productive conversation, at least not for your child, right? If they feel that from you. So it can just really be helpful to kind of talk through it with a friend, a partner, or even a therapist, again, just so that you can flush some of that out. And it's important to set the tone. Each of your needs won't be met 100%, and that's okay. Being a family is about compromise. And so this is really a great setting to really focus on compromise and making sure some of my needs are being met and also some of my kids' needs are being met. But again, we're not going to completely agree 100%. We also just want to normalize the desire to spend time with friends, maybe more than family and vice versa. Parents, you may want to spend more time with your kids during the break, while kids may want to spend more time with their friends, or even just time alone, not doing anything. And that's perfectly normal given the pandemic and all of the isolation that we felt over the past almost 2 years. Some of our kids may be feeling overwhelmed now, having transitioned back into school. So the idea of just having some alone time, some downtime, not doing anything probably sounds really appealing. So we just want parents to remember that if kids choose friends over you, it's nothing against you. It's not that they don't like you. They're exhibiting normal behavior for your age or for their age. And we really want you to try hard not to take it personally, because again, that's going to come through when you're having those conversations with your children. Remember, with these conversations, you will hopefully have planned time with them, and just balance. We don't want to overwhelm them with too many family activities, too much homework, or too many chores, right? Like the holiday is not a great time to get all those chores done. That's not going to be super appealing for your kids. So we want to allow time for them to do things that they enjoy, and things that they just feel are important, like seeing friends, like not doing anything, or just working on projects even that may be of interest to them. And, I always tell my parents this: no judgment here. However they choose or decide to spend their time, as long as we've talked about it together, that's fine, even if it doesn't fully align with what you think is the most productive way to spend time during the break. I'm just going to pass it back to Meg now.
Thank you. Absolutely. Man, that's a tough one, though. I can definitely relate. It's hard not to judge your child. Making plans helps with that. So I'd like to talk a little more about how to foster connection. So when you are building this connection with your child, obviously you already have, hopefully, a lot of solid foundation around this. But when it comes to planning and getting your family out of their normal routine, it's important to consider how to keep yourself connected and aligned with each other. So active listening is a skill that can be incredibly useful when connecting with your child. When we actively listen, we're not agreeing with everything our child is saying. However, we are acknowledging that their point of view is valid and that we hear them. Empathetic reflection is a great skill to make sure you understand your child. It will also help them to feel validated. So this, again, you're role modeling for them, what you hope they will be able to give you, their peers, future relationships as they move forward in life. So once you've listened to your child and you've reflected back their needs, it is time to share your point of view and your needs. You should be clear around the items that you feel are non-negotiable. Like, for example, if you know they're going to have to not have their phone out at Thanksgiving table, or you want them to sit down and talk to their grandma, you're going to need to be clear about that and build out how they're going to plan. If it causes stress for them, listen to them and help them think through a good plan to work, to be able to achieve what you need them to do. But there are areas, and I'm sure you'll have lots, or a few at least. I know I have 2 or 3 that I'm willing to be flexible with, like Alex said, maybe allowing a little more veg out time than I'm comfortable with. But if it's a plan and you're willing to go with it, just let yourself be comfortable if that's what you've agreed. So lastly, on this point, explain to your child why the things that are on your list are either non-negotiable or flexible. It's important for them to know the behind the scenes answer to this, the reason for this. A lot of times kids feel, or parents give that answer because I said so. But really, I'm sure in your mind, when you decided what you're absolutely not willing to let go of, it has a lot of sound thought and reason. So share that with them. Be honest. For example, you've got a C- in math. I need you to study. It's going to need to happen. No, it doesn't need to happen the first day of break, but I'd like you to spend X amount of time working on your math skills over the break. So let's figure out a compromise for when that could happen. That's not going to encroach on your relaxation time. It's about compromise, but explaining why you feel the way you feel. So when you're negotiating these plans, these wonderful plans, it is okay and sometimes extremely helpful to delay the decision after a first pass of the conversation. If your child's getting defensive or very entrenched in their perspective, for example, why are you trying to ruin my entire break and control every minute of my time? That's a red flag that you're going to need to back off and try again. Also, if you notice your own blood pressure rising, your kid is getting on your nerves, you're not going to be your most effective and empathetic self in this moment. Suggest a time to check back in later. Let's both give this some thought and come back and try again, maybe later tonight or tomorrow. So once you have gotten to that point and then you're thinking about activities, as Alex was discussing, it's important to remind your child that what you're looking for, the reason you're trying to plan with them, is that you want to connect with them. The activity that you do or that you decide to do together does not matter in the long run. It's the way you feel about each other when you're spending time together that counts. So one strategy is to propose taking turns with your kid. For example, if your child loves Minecraft, but you absolutely hate video games and you are judgy about screen time, you wish they would get fresh air and exercise and move around some more. Instead of sharing that negative loop with them, you could say, let's do a trade. I'd like to learn more about what you love so much about, I don't know, is it Minecraft, Xbox, maybe Nerf Wars, whatever it is that they're super into. And then let them know that you'd like to show them what you love about, let's say, walking in the park, doing yoga, or playing fetch with your dog. So proposing to give each other a 30-minute window into your interest is a great way to kick the ball off to learning a little more about each other. And hopefully it will lead to you having fun. And not getting your feelings hurt is going to be important here. Your kid may not admit they're having fun, but if they're willing to do a 30-minute activity with you, that says something. So take that as, some props for yourself and don't worry so much about their eye rolls. It's not relevant in that moment. So there's another strategy you could try, which requires a little bit of bravery. You can try to dive into their world. Let them know you'd like to learn more about what they love. You can be brave. Let your kid be the expert here. You can ask them if they'd be willing to teach you how to do one of their favorite activities. I mean, this might be something simple like, hey, let's watch your favorite TikTok videos and maybe you'd be willing to teach me a dance. Sure, you're going to end up looking like a fool, but who does this matter to? If your child is laughing and you're laughing and having a fun time, isn't that the potential for a really connective moment? So you don't need to be the expert here. Your kid knows so much. Their universe is so open to them. And in asking them to let you in is a wonderful way to connect. Remember, it is normal for young people to discount the style and the interests of their predecessors. It's hurtful, but it's true. Think back to your own childhood. Try to remember how cool you thought your parents were. So my parents are really actually pretty cool people, very cool. However, when I was a teenager and tween, I thought they were didn't know what they were talking about, were pretty lame, they were unreasonable, super strict. All of those things, completely normal. You need to be aware if you know your kid is going to feel this way about you, it's okay. And that's normal for teenagers or tweens even. If you know your feelings are going to get hurt because your kid is not interested in the same things as you, take a deep breath. keep going. Remember, if your goal is for connection, your mutual interests can be found. You're trying to connect with each other, and you can do it if you keep searching for those connection opportunities. So back to Alex to share a little more about our technology.
Technology, it's, I think, always the most stressful area of conversation throughout the year, and especially as we go into breaks from school, summer break, holiday breaks, things like that. And I think parents initially start these conversations sometimes with me like, I know what's going to happen already. This is what it's going to look like. There's no point in talking about it. And that really sets the stage for something negative. It doesn't give your child the opportunity to maybe do something different. And it doesn't give you the opportunity to show your child that maybe you're thinking about tech in a different way. So this may be the case, but we don't really know until we discuss it, and we can't really set any clear expectations around it until you're on the same page. So your child may expect more flexibility around technology when on break. There may be an assumption that all the technology rules go out the window during the holiday. And again, this may be the case for some families, or it often can just happen because we aren't talking about it. We aren't having conversations about it until something bad happens. So this is just a really great opportunity to discuss with them what is and what isn't working about your current technology setup. Some families even use this break as a test run for a new agreement, depending on how tech is used during the break. So we really want to make these things a part of the conversation and ask your child to share what they're hoping for with regards to tech during the break. It feels like, again, tech is an ongoing battle, tech versus everything else. And sometimes I say to my parents, it's basically their wants versus your wants, right? They want to spend time on their phones, unrestricted, connecting with friends. You want them to spend less time using technology, less time in front of a screen, being active, having new experiences, and really connecting with the family. So again, another great opportunity to come back to mutual expectations. I think it's really important just to remind your children that you want them to have fun. You want them to do the things that they want to do while also trying new things that don't always center around technology and being connected to the family. How else can they plan to spend their time is a great question for your child. This lets them know that you understand that they may be using more tech during the holiday, but also opens up the conversation to discuss what else they'd like to do and how you can support them in doing that. Accountability is another great topic that comes up when talking about technology. And, this is a great time to maybe practice some new accountability formats during the holiday. For example, if a child maybe is supposed to turn in their phone at 10 p.m. in the evening, maybe you guys push it back to 11 to test out how that goes. And instead of reminding them at, 10, 10:30, 10:55, maybe remind them earlier in the afternoon or in the day, and then give them the opportunity to do it on their own. For the child, this can be a good chance for them to show you that they can manage their tech on their own, and for you, a good chance to see them step up to the plate. But this accountability format should really be discussed beforehand, again, so the expectations are really clear, and we're not kind of leaving room for miscommunication, misunderstandings, and well, I thought this, or you didn't say anything, so I didn't do that. That's when more conflict arises. And then that fun family activity that you had planned tomorrow, they're not going to want to do that. And remember, this is also trial and error. So they may not get it right the first time or even the second time, but that's okay. But we don't really know until we try. And we need to circle back and have conversations about it. We need to close that feedback loop, again, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. If your child is on an extended break period, you may find it beneficial to talk about what is working kind of overall with their tech use and what isn't working with the current setup. They may share really valuable information, like "you're always nagging me," which could lead you to inviting them into a conversation about ways to find a solution that works better for them. So again, that collaboration piece is really important. And then just another piece, that I always let my parents know is consistent rules for the entire their family. Like if we're going to set some rules for your child during family time, grandparents are coming over, I don't want you to have your phone around, then I would also expect parents to do the same thing. Meg mentioned modeling emotions earlier. And so we really want to model with technology as well. If I'm asking a child to step away from their phone or from a game, it would be great if you could do the same thing during family time. So you're not on the phone texting or talking with other family members. You don't have your laptop up and you're working while still trying to engage with the family, and so not just one child, but all the children in the family. We really want to make it consistent. And then again, it leaves less room for, hey, like they get to do this and I don't, you're on your phone, so why can't I be? It just makes it a lot easier, and as much as we want to hold our children accountable, let's hold ourselves accountable in doing that. If I say I'm going to put my phone down for a couple hours while your grandparents are here, I'm really going to make sure that I'm doing that again. So I'm modeling for my kid and that they can see that. And then lastly, don't put extra stress on yourself based on what your peers are doing. Everyone's families and systems look differently. So what may work for your coworkers' children probably doesn't work for yours. Don't put extra pressure on yourself to do what your friends are doing, what you've read in an article, or even what you saw on a segment on the Today Show or something like that. Really, it's important to do what's best for you and your family. And on the next slide, I'm just going to offer a couple conversation starters, just around these technology pieces and maybe how to start a conversation with your child. So it could be something like, I hear you and can imagine how irritating and frustrating it is for you when I give you repeated reminders. Can I share what it's like for me? I hate nagging you, but I'm worried about the amount of time you're spending on your phone and would love it if you can find more balance. What strategies do you think you could use to manage your time so that I don't have to keep reminding you? Again, so we're really kind of letting them know how we feel, what our experience has been, and then inviting them into the conversation so that it can feel really collaborative and so that we're working together. Oh my God, sorry, I think we just had a little earthquake. Oy. Okay, and then the next example just offers, I really want to get you some movement and exercise into your everyday schedule or into your everyday. So a goal or priority while you're on school break, but I don't mind what you do, so again, letting them know the things that, you think would be important for them to do beyond tech, but also kind of clarifying, like, I don't really care what it is. I just want you to be doing something else that is not just on your phone. So these are just kind of examples and ways to get the conversation started. And then hopefully that allows for enough flexibility and room for your child to join in that conversation.
Alex, I just wanted to say it was really awesome to see how quickly you just let that little earthquake just kind of go by and you kept on rolling. Wow.
The California girl through and through. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys.
No, it's all good.
That was very exciting, especially with the we want you to take movement moment.
This was all planned. Oh gosh.
Well said, Alex. Thank you. So once you've done all of this, you've come up with these great plans, you're at the end. Maybe you've had the break for next week. For all of us, it'll be Thanksgiving, and then you'll have winter break. And after that, summer break, it's out there, it's coming for you. It'll be back. It always seems like it's forever away, but pre-planning and being reflective on how things went when you tried something new is incredibly important. So when you and your child have made this effort to achieve a compromise and to change a routine, it's understandable that it may not go great on the first try. Be patient with yourself and your child and figure out what you could each do better next time. Creating new habits as a family is incredibly challenging, and it's going to take time to achieve your goals to perfection. Maybe some baby step goals may happen along the way, though. So give your child and yourself some grace. This will give you space to try again next time, as opposed to feeling defeated. Nothing went right. We were horribly unsuccessful. Find those little moments that you can praise each other. And on to that, when you make a conscious decision to lead with positive feedback with your child, you're prioritizing the development of their self-esteem, as well as their belief in their ability to make change and to make you proud. It's important to remember that you'll also have room in this conversation for constructive criticism. But when you lead with positive feedback about what they did right, it puts a focus on how we're both doing well. It sets you up in a good way. So in family systems theory, strongly encourages parents to involve themselves as well as our actions and our thoughts, our feelings, behaviors when we review how a routine went. When you share your own areas for growth, you're being a role model, an example to your child. With practice and consistency, hopefully you'll encourage that behavior in them. You can invite your child to share what they noticed or how they felt when you were not at your best. Try to grow some thick skin in this moment. Take a deep breath. Remember, this is a learning moment, and you're here to learn and to listen from them, not to be defensive. When you need to go gripe later on to your spouse, your partner, your therapist, your friend, whatever, that's where you can say, I can't believe they said this about me. It's okay. We get it. You can actively listen to your child when they share feedback with you. You're providing an example of how you want them to respond to you, i.e., not super defensive. Okay, I hear that. Or even, wow, that hurts to hear that. Or that makes me sad, but you're right. I am struggling with that. We're teaching them the skill of accountability. So next, it's time for the kids' turn for some constructive criticism. You're going to invite them to share what they think did not go so great. If they can't think of any areas for personal improvement, you could share one or two things that you noticed about, but share with them how those experiences made you feel rather than judgments. For example, I noticed that I got really tense when I was reminding you for the third time to get off your screen, rather than you never stopped when you were supposed to, and you never did, you never will. Kind of makes them a little defensive and not so interested in having a conversation. So you're having an invitation with them for the two of you to be curious about what could change, what they could change, as well as what you could do to start to change an old family pattern that is not working so well anymore. So after you have spoken to your child and you figured out what went well and what not so well, it's important to think about next time. Like I said, if you are able to do it next week and plan a little bit for Thanksgiving, maybe try one thing and then go, oh, okay, in a month's time, we have winter break coming up. What 3 things could I try, or 4 things? It's important to be curious about how those changes might improve the way your child reacts to you and vice versa. Consider small and possibly big changes to your plans for next time. And lastly, making space for gratitude. Gratitude is so important when you're working on a new goal. Thank your child for working hard and share that you're proud of them and yourself. Expressing gratitude fosters a connection between you and your child. Together, you're a team working to be your best selves. Every step of that journey deserves noticing and encouragement. And I think it's back to Bridget, perhaps. Is that right?
It is. And this is what will be sent out, but I really liked this empathetic listening quote from Stephen Covey. It really is kind of honing in on empathetic listening is really about getting in the other person's frame of reference. And you're really kind of seeing through their eyes, through their world, understanding their paradigm and really how they are feeling. And so you've heard us reflect on this so much throughout this, and this is hard because it is hard to not become reactive in those moments. And so that's why you see this other link around mindfulness and kind of just being aware of what's going on for us in these really sometimes challenging conversations. And also, as we've said, grace and practice. This is something that does take practice. This is something that takes time. So we'll leave these links here. I think they're really great articles to touch on. And I definitely wanted to leave some time too for questions. So we'll complete our presentation here. I definitely want to give a big thank you to Kyle and Tiffany at Guiding Bright Minds. I hope you guys remember they have a YouTube channel. Go to their website. There's so many great resources there. And so we definitely are appreciative of the opportunity to be here and speak with you. And at this point, if anyone has any questions for us or Kyle or anything, we're happy to chat about it.
That'd be awesome. And if you can place your questions in the Q&A, that would be amazing. Hopefully we get some great ones. And I just wanted to say, Bridget, Alex, and Meg, first, thanks for kind of presenting all this information and getting us ready for the holidays. It can be stressful as it is. And then with the family dynamics and those great tips about how to work with our children. One of the things that I found valuable was kind of how you reference putting your child in charge, giving them some ability to plan with you and help set that. And I think you mentioned, right, it takes a little different mindset than sometimes we have, to step back and let them contribute to that planning and be okay with, some of the video games, or I think you mentioned, watching TikTok together. I really like that idea. Thought that was a great one. And then, something else that I like that you said was reflect on kind of what went right and what you would do different next time. And I'll just expand on that a little bit and say, I think you can do that on a daily basis or even just after a general activity. So you have a chance to improve the next one the next day, right? Or even the next activity. And it helps kids make connections. And, one of the things that I see, and I'd be curious to get your opinion, Alex, Bridget, or Meg, and that making connections. So I see a lot of kids with the neurodiverse kids having trouble kind of making connections from one thing to another, and how, for example, somebody's actions might affect something else, and how to kind of shift and change and do something different next time. So can you comment on that? And then we'll get a question fielded as well. Yeah. So all right. So I guess.
Let me just jump in. Kyle, can you
please.
see the questions, or should I stop my share? I just want to see. We did have a question.
The questions. Yep, I can see them.
Okay.
Thanks. Well, let me just go ahead and jump into this question. So here's a question. So how do we help parents get on the same page about goals and expectations for the break?
This can be a challenging one. I'll go ahead and start with it. I mean, it is a challenging one, straight up. It's hard for single parents or separated parents, but also when you're living in the same household with someone and truly, whether you're separated or living together, your partner parents. And so when you're not on the same page, I think that's what this question means, is basically when you and your partner are not on the same page. And then you're trying to get your child to join you in curiosity. I would say all of the things that we suggested to do with your child, except for hopefully you'll use some kid gloves, but maybe you won't need so much. Have that conversation privately with your spouse, your partner, in private. And in the case for parents who are divorced, show each other the respect that you're willing to have that conversation in advance privately when your kids aren't in earshot, so that you can then go into the conversation and invite your child to join you. And there's less tension. There's not as many surprises.
Definitely. You guys want to present a really united front and be aligned. And I'd also just kind of go back to my point about compromise and your needs, right? We all have needs. And I think in that situation, your needs are not going to be 100% met. So you may have an idea or an expectation of what it would look like, your partner will. And so we'll each have to let go of a few things and then agree together what are our most important needs, and then go and have that conversation with our child. But each of us is not going to get 100%, and that's just normal. Your kid's not going to get 100% of their needs met, and that's just perfectly normal. So I think being flexible with yourselves is super important.
Yeah, I wanted to throw out another question too. So if you are in the middle of the holiday break and you have an argument with your son or daughter, and things don't go the right way, and everybody, people lose tempers, or your child ends up throwing a fit. What's your recommendation on how to get right, how to bring that in and kind of, be able to shift from that episode to something more positive?
I mean, I would definitely, say it like a reset. Maybe you guys need some breathing room and space in the moment. And then, circle back and have a conversation well, what just happened here? Where was the breakdown of communication? What are you feeling? Make sure to check in with your child before making any assumptions. And then let's say, what, let's start over. I get it. You were feeling frustrated. You were feeling unheard. I was also feeling the same thing. And then how do we, and again, that collaboration piece, how do we move on from here together, instead of just going in the next day and saying, this is what needs to happen, because yesterday it didn't work out. Like, you're not going to have the buy-in then from your child, because it's that top-down method. And, for me, in my experience, it doesn't really work super effectively.
I agree. And I think, validating and inquiring with curiosity what the feelings were for them. Like, after everybody's gotten calmed down, they're calmer, you're calmer, you can sort of explore, hey, what was happening for you, and share what was happening with yourself. And then sometimes what happens is we make these fantastic plans, but they need modifications stat. We cannot wait till the next break. Like, maybe you allowed way too much wiggle room, or maybe you're way too rigid. So once you get calm, you reflect your feelings, you could ask your kid, what do you think? Do you think we need to quickly make a small modification? Now, I wouldn't do that every day during a week-long break, but you'll know when it's the right moment, and then be willing to compromise and say, let's try it this way for the next 24 hours. And tomorrow night after dinner, I want to check back in. Yeah. Let's see how it went on a day trying this new way.
Cool. Awesome. Well, with that, I think we're gonna wrap up. And Alex, Meg, and Bridget, I just want to say thank you so much, and all of Team Wonder, for the time you spent to prepare this and the time you spent with us today. You guys are doing amazing work, and I hope families will seek you out and learn more about you, and just, again, thank you. And I'm thinking about, the turkey legs, right? If we get to an argument with our children about who gets the turkey legs, how do we break that tie? But all right, so seriously, thank you guys very, very much for your time today, and thank you all for attending. Really appreciate it. Anybody who sees this, again, if you think this can be helpful for somebody else, please spread it far and wide, and visit Guiding Bright Minds, and let us be part of your community and guide you in your journey as in parenting your amazing child. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and hope everybody has an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.